Yes, it not being a tavern means that drinking rules are irrelevant.
Drinking rules are always irrelevant. Just drink until you're satisfied.
Except if when I say sorry, trademark Canada, that should be considered. It's kind of.
Oh yeah. No, the rules are there to enable drinking, not to prevent you from drinking.
Not that you're drinking in a tavern, because this is not a tavern.
Right.
But it's not a. It's not a tavern. It is a not a tavern.
It is right, correct. It's not a tavern. It's just not a tavern.
Yes, that should not make sense.
Right.
And by the way, I love your ASMR thing. We're going to do an ASMR news.
ASMR news. A kitten was found in a tree yesterday. Ron Swanson showed up and pulled him down. Everything's fine.
But was it tweeted on Twitter, and did anyone notice it? If Elon tweets and no one cares, did he make a sound?
I imagine that man is just constantly screaming into the void.
If Elon tweets and no one cares, does a chief engineer get fired?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm glad we're getting all these things out of the way before things start, because it would be embarrassing.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear that joke.
Yeah, that was a terrible joke.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I think it's starting.
What is it? Okay.
Is it? No, is it?
Hi.
Oh, it is.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the tavern. I sound like complete garbage. I'm glad you're here. I don't know if I'm glad to be here. I haven't decided yet. Maanyaa's on her way, because who the hell is that? Oh, she's gone again. Never mind.
Bye, Maanyaa.
Bye,
Jess,
Maanyaa.
you gotta take my advice with butter. You just gotta take my advice with the butter.
I will make sure to try that. You know, I actually have been doing that, and it's been working.
Oh.
I am better than I was
Good.
yesterday. So I have that going for me, which is nice.
Because of the butter.
Yes, correct. So anybody, welcome everybody back to the tavern. I've got Landon, I've got Dapper, I've got Maanyaa with us. Today, Maanyaa has returned from the beyond, wherever the hell it is she was from. Can we hear you?
Hey.
Okay, we have audio. I thought it was my audio that was broken.
How do we know this isn't pre-recorded?
We don't. Never
I
go
guess we
full
could
salt.
try we could try reading the chat, I guess. That might help indicate that it's not pre-recorded.
Yes.
But I don't want to. I don't want to.
That's true. That is true.
All right.
Well, welcome.
How's everybody doing? What's everybody got planned for the weekend? And then we'll get started.
My plan
my
for the
plan for the
weekend
week-
is
I love doing that. I could dictate who goes first, but I just like watching you guys be
Nice.
sick.
My plan for the weekend involves a Superb Owl special tomorrow. I'm going to be talking a little bit about owls because they are superb, hence the Superb Owl special. Yeah, that's going to be starting at, I believe, 4 p.m. Pacific, which is
but are they
7
dinosaurs?
Eastern. Yes, they are. Yes. Owls are both superb and dinosaurs, so it's the Superb Owl special. We're also going to talk about the fact that creationists keep being really dumb about birds. Like really, really, really dumb about birds. And I don't get why, because they could just not be, and it would make no difference to them at all. They just choose, of their own volition, for no good reason, to be especially dumb about birds.
As Goethe once said, translated in English, there's nothing more frightening than ignorance in action.
oh my god.
It's true.
Yeah, there's
There's
stupidity,
so
and
much-
then there's like
Willful ignorance. going on
malicious
nowadays.
ignorance, and that's kind of sucks.
Ugh. Yeah.
So
Oh,
hi,
oh.
Smitty. Hi, Nikki. Hi, of course, and other folks in the chat. Please consider clicking that like button. By the way, it helps.
I like that we still haven't actually done anything that would help confirm that this isn't pre-recorded. Because those are all just names that you would expect to be here anyway.
Yes, this is true. This could just be a time shifted thing,
So
and that's true.
I've got a way. When you premiere something pre-recorded on YouTube, it comes up with a timer and shit, and it says at the bottom it's a premiere.
But here's the thing:
So
I have gone live technically, but actually played a pre-recorded video with the live in order to people on April Fool's Day before. So
now,
Yeah.
for example, I could have told Dave McInnes hi, and that please make a joke about the stupidity of the U.S. House of Representatives, right? And that it would show up and try to pretend like this is the case. But if I also said, hello there, Kent Hovind, glad to see you in the chat, and Kent Hovind doesn't show up, then
In fact,
either
can't show up.
No, he's got 2 channels once again. He's back.
Oh, he's back already?
dear.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh dear.
I thought his channel was gone.
Listen, if I was
Both
gonna...
of his original channels got super nuked. They were just deleted off the internet.
If I was gonna pre-record a video and have it playing, I would do a better job than that guy who, like, murdered his wife.
Oh yeah, and his alibi was, well, I was live, except it wasn't actually a live video.
It's obviously
Yeah.
pre-recorded.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I am drinking in my Pele mug, or Pele's ash would be her children's mug. Some orange juice with vodka, and I also had a Henry Whitehart's Private Reserve beer that I can switch over to, because I think we're going to need it, even though this is not a tavern.
You can drink in places besides a tavern.
That is true.
Yeah. We're gonna definitely need it. Oh, you bet.
Yes, I did pay Icarus. Just send me your bank account number and all those things you should never send someone on the internet, and I promise not to transfer money the wrong direction.
Bank account number, PIN, mother's maiden name, social security number, or national identification number, depending on
Who you
what country
studied
you're in.
in?
The name of your first
Yes.
Who you studied in? The Penn Standard. All that
Yeah.
shit.
What street did you grow up on? All that good stuff.
Oh, that thing you should never share
Favorite
with a.
superhero.
Yes.
All right, so
Oh,
for today, we do have 2 options for the chat to choose between. We either get to talk about what Canadians should or should not be doing in regards to Biden doing something, or talk about how the Tories think that Christians apparently have it the most persecuted in the area. So
Yeah.
you guys get
So
to vote on that.
so one of them
UK is apparently a nightmare for Christians.
U.S. protectionism versus Canadian wanting to sell us stuff type of thing. So the U.S.-Canada thing. The other is a couple of Tories who are Christians believing that they're persecuted. These are people in the House of Commons in Westminster, because So those are the 2 things, and they're plus and minus. They're both, but you get to decide which one you're interested in. You want to talk about what, because this is what Biden said in the State of the Union, what has impact on being friendly with Canada or not, and the other has to do with somebody whining about their religious. It's so hard to be a Christian in the former United Kingdom.
I think so with
There's just so many rocks everywhere. It's such a struggle.
I think so with the Christians having it hard, it's like for hundreds of years, Christians have had the privilege of dominating every field in every part of the
Maanyaa, they haven't voted to talk about this yet.
Yes, but there's Americans that want to have international trade, but also being protectionist. But then there's Canadians, and you can talk about from a Canadian perspective, their hand isn't so legal white either. So we can
What
get into it.
Canadians
anything
might
wrong
be
ever?
obviously Canadians engaging in shady protectionist policies to protect things like their maple syrup reserves. They would never.
Even Canadians discriminate against Canadians.
We would never. We definitely don't.
Anyway,
we
so you
definitely
decided
don't all
to.
hate each other based on our
I just,
preferences.
we're not trying to bias you when we're there, but just saying that there are spicy things on both sides, so you get to decide which one. But
All right.
so is there going to be a poll that people could participate in?
The poll is currently active on the live stream for anybody who wants to vote on which one we actually dive into. Our first topic.
Vote the
for
way
today-
I did, or I hate you.
He's not going to tell you which way he voted.
Correct.
So to start off with, the first thing we're going to cover today is actually still Biden, and it is about the balloon. The doom
object.
balloon. The doom balloon.
It's an object still. We're
will-
not calling it a balloon.
I will die on the hill of calling it doom balloon.
Fair.
Oh, well, there was that really nice French short film about the balloon. That was a thing. That was the kid had a pet balloon that followed him around, and those mean people threw rocks at it and popped it, but then a whole bunch of balloons
That's so
came and
sad.
took the kid away. But balloons. Yes, there's balloons. Balloons are pretty interesting objects, and weather balloons are quite useful for understanding and helping model the weather. And what weather balloons typically do is they have a payload. Pretend this Kinder Egg toy is a weather instrument that measures temperature, pressure, wind direction, all good stuff, solar strength, and they partially fill a helium balloon. Balloon goes up. The balloon, as it goes up, it gets bigger, bigger, bigger because there's less and less pressure, and eventually the balloon pops, and then the thing deploys a parachute and falls back down. And basically, they get a basically record information in the vertical column until the balloon pops and comes back down. That's what weather balloons do, typically. There are specialized balloons in Antarctica where they sort of fly around inside measuring, astronomy-based stuff. But then there are balloons that are there to go sniff stuff. And the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, put up a balloon that they hoped no one would notice, but unfortunately it did. And it carried a large thing, about the size of a railroad car, which, to
be fair, they weren't that sneaky with it.
Yeah, I'm just,
yes, although, go ahead.
number one, the practicality of it, right? A balloon, right? It's not really robust and not really practical. And number two, like, if according to me, if it was a balloon like tracking weather or some shit like that, and if it veered off course, I'm sure China would have let people know before America would have come up with a story for it, right? So for them to just keep quiet even when it veered off course, and then say, "Oh no, it was just a weather balloon," something for measuring weather and shit, it kind of tells me no, it was not.
So the point of view of weather balloons, because do that at time on atmospheric science, is they tend to go up to the point where the balloon expands and pops, and then the thing falls back down by parachute. It's not a go around the world sort of thing.
Yeah.
It tends to be up and down. In the case of spying, balloons actually have some great advantages over satellites. And this is a thing that the Chinese Communist Party put out all kinds of excuses, trying to. They're the kid that got caught that blames the cat, blames their brother, blames everything else, and doesn't face up to the reality. And by the way, their excuses internally inside China, in Chinese thinking people couldn't translate it, are different than the junk they put outward.
Obama got Bin Laden and Biden got a balloon. It's fine.
But balloons, so that's one of the things that they tried to do, is to say, well, no one uses a balloon for spying. Actually, you do use a balloon for spying. One of the things why a balloon is really good for spying is it's much lower to the ground and has a much better signal interception than a satellite that's way far up, right? It has also some other sensors you can do that satellites can. So in some ways, balloons are actually quite a good platform from the point of view of
Oh,
picking up signals and doing analysis. Also, the
yes.
cameras, they do much more detail because they're closer to the ground.
Yes.
In that
Yes, I
sense.
agree.
And then the maneuverability, the way that they were doing it was, inside the payload were gas canisters where they could pump gas back into the balloon or pull it back down, and so they can control the buoyancy. And given wind directions, different wind directions, they can do some slight maneuverability up and down. And they saw doing that when the balloon attempted to go over missile silo sites in Montana and on the other side of the border in Canada. But according to briefings that have been made public, one of the things that NORAD, which is U.S. and Canada, did was to disable its ability to communicate, monitoring. In fact, as soon as they began monitoring the entity and looking where it was communicating from and to, the Chinese government backed off and then played all these PR games, including no one to use a weather balloon for it. The U.S. is scared of it. It's just a balloon. It's just a private company.
Oh, we scared them with the
giving
weather
excuses,
balloon.
right? It's the kid that comes to class and their homework hasn't been done, and they blame the dog, they blame the weather, they blame time warp, relativity, everything other than accepting responsibility. And to me,
out of the other end of the black hole somehow.
yeah, that's true. To me, this is the greatest loss of faith that the CCP has done, is their inability to just be a person and say, yeah, we did it, right? That's to me, their greatest loss of faith. Now,
super chat from April for 5 that says, "Hi Landon, Chesh, welcome back Maanyaa. Thanks to whoever gifted the membership. No hi to Dapper, cause fuck you, Dapper. The person who gave you your membership was Alicia, by the way."
Hey.
Wait, what did I do?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's a second balloon that was, people might not know, but the second balloon.
Yeah, I can tell.
Was detected and actually shot down on as it approached Alaska. And the first thing they did was, in some ways, the intelligence that they were gathering on the balloon, the U.S. and Canada were gathering on the balloon, is actually quite valuable, right? We sort of let it operate, but prevented signals from going out by jamming and other sorts of things that they're not going to talk about, and then downing it in the water so that it kind of came down like a thing, and recovering that device as opposed to having it smash the bits on the ground or eventually hitting somebody, was a reasonable thing to do. So we gained a lot of information from and gained a lot of information about what they were trying to do. That being said, this next device that came up, one of the problems that NORAD had was that, unlike the Chinese spy balloon, let's talk about CCP spy balloon, Chinese Communist Party spy balloon, was well above aviation stuff. The second balloon was in the aviation path, and could have, airplanes could have hit it. So that and besides, I think we had gained whatever information we had on the CCP spy balloon stuff. And by the way, we meteorology, we can trace where it came from, right? It's no secret where it came from.
Yeah.
And so watching it, go ahead.
If you read the report, it not appear to be self-maneuvering. What?
Can you magnify it a bit? The page, can you magnify it a bit, please?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is that better?
Yeah, much better. Thanks. Yeah.
This is she's talking about the second balloon, not the.
Oh, this is the second one.
That was shot. Yeah, there's a second one. There's a second one that hit.
Oh, there were two that were shot. I thought there was just one.
Yes. Now there's a second one now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's ambassador. That's audacious now. Sorry.
Yeah, this one went down in Alaska. That's Canada actually were like, yeah, shoot it down.
Yeah, and so it hit down. It hit the ice waters off, from the waters off of that thing before there. Now this balloon had very similar things to what happened in New Zealand. New Zealand bless its heart, decided to partake with the Chinese in launching one of these spy balloons from a farmland area as a test, and helped that Chinese actually test a balloon launch, which had sort of simulated capabilities of things that could drop from it and so forth. So
Thanks,
it's odd
Maanyaa.
that's odd. It's odd that we've known of these programs. It's just that they had the audacity to try it. But let it be known that the CCP is too much of a coward to go and say, yeah, we put a spy balloon. What are you going to do about it, right?
Athens
too much
said
of an excuse.
China was looking for honey and we shot it down.
Yeah, but like, well, also, I mean, look, it's not like Winnie the Pooh is known for extreme bravery and confidence, right? It's not one of Winnie the Pooh's big character traits. So
It's true.
Yeah.
The report also said on Thursdays, officials revealed that they believe the spy balloons the U.S. has discovered are part of a large fleet that is conducting surveillance operations globally. The U.S. has traced balloons to 40 countries across 5 continents.
Yeah.
So one thing I think that should be put out there is one of the things that China tried to do was to use the international treaty that governs like air traffic worldwide, right? Because if you notice, generally speaking, planes get to fly over most places, right? There's one notorious holdout at the UN, which is an extremely uncooperative rogue state that most countries, I think, have really cut off ties with that haven't signed this treaty, and that's Liechtenstein.
Yeah. Yes.
But other than that, notorious bad actor Liechtenstein. Basically, one of the provisions of the treaty does allow for research meteorology balloons with a payload, I believe, under like 5 kilograms or something. Which, looking at the payload of that spy balloon, I think it's a bit more than that. Just gonna go out on a limb, but and it does allow for that without permission of the country whose airspace the balloon flies over, and that's in part because you can't always control it. And if it is a light purely for meteorology balloon, that's a benefit to the entire world, right? It's a good idea for everyone to know what the atmosphere is about to do. And so that was one of the excuses that they tried to go with. But of course, the problem is, well, the U.S. has the payload, right? It's obviously not a purely meteorological balloon, and 2, it doesn't meet the weight classification that it would need to in order for this to qualify. Yeah, Smitty, everyone knows that Liechtenstein is a rogue state.
Yeah, and I actually went through Liechtenstein on the way on a train travel thing. You end up.
I'm glad you survived.
There's a train station. Yeah, and it was previously before the Swiss Army at one point accidentally entered Liechtenstein, had it apologized, and then basically held a nice food drink fest with the locals to appease them. But most weather balloons are for the purpose of going up, popping and coming back down. And the reason why there's international borders is that some small countries, like let's say a country like Andorra or so forth, it's hard to go up and not cross a border, right? So there's sort of but that's typically what you do. Their vertical ascent, pop, and then come back down is how they're used worldwide.
Yeah, they don't typically cross an entire continent, and
they don't go across. There's another balloon that the Chinese sent across, or the Chinese Communist Party sent across South America. That's there. There's and I've heard rumors of the third one, but they have a fleet of these things around, and they're being mean. I mean, internally they're saying that the U.S. Couldn't shoot down. It shows how weak the military airport because it took them too long to shoot them down, and they've also used things like they were that we were trying to aggravate the international relations with.
Well, which one is it? Was it the U.S. is so weak that they couldn't shoot it down in time, or was it that they were trying to aggravate people by shooting it down? Like these seem like I don't. Anyway, can we just mention all of the idiots in the United States who thought that their hunting rifles would be able to take down a stratospheric balloon because apparently they don't understand how high bullets can go. Like, oh, if the U.S. won't take, if the government won't take care of it, if the damn Democrats won't do it, I'll shoot it down with my rifle. No, you won't.
Hold on. Oh my goodness. You own a rifle and you don't know the range of your bullet if you shoot it straight up into the and also what happens to that bullet when once it comes down?
Oh, it hits
for
something.
fuck's sake.
I mean, that is a pretty good argument for all of the people who claim to know so much about guns and guns violence and immediately shooting that in the foot. Metaphorically.
Yeah, there's gravity,
maybe.
and that thing is pointy, that thing is small, and it's coming. You know with what force the rain droplets come down, right? Right. We know that, right? And this is something that's denser than a rain droplet. You know what can happen when it comes down, and if it lands in a densely populated area, you morons out there fucking.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it can kill someone. Although to be fair, there are some places where you could fire a gun into the air, and it would almost certainly hit no person because. I mean, Wyoming exists, and it's basically devoid of human life, as it should
And
be
there's
given
Canada,
like
too.
its climate and also.
No one lives in Canada, or if they do, they speak softly and carry a big stick.
Well, I mean, basically all of Canada lives within 10 miles of the U.S. border because that's the only even barely livable part of that frozen wasteland.
Oh, come on.
Hey, listen,
Look, I say that as someone who chose to live in the hottest place out there.
There's a lot of rocks.
I'm actually considering moving to Canada.
I want to correct you, Dapper. They don't live within 10 miles. They live within about 16 kilometers.
Yeah, nobody uses miles.
Canada
That's
uses
not true.
civilization.
Many Canadians lose miles.
Yeah, well, they're wrong.
That's true.
Okay.
Canadians are sometimes fickle. They measure their height of people in feet and inches, but they measure a length of pipe in meters. Go figure.
Yeah, we're really bad about that. Okay, so speaking of China spying on people, Australia decided to rip out 900 Chinese-made security cameras from government buildings.
Yeah, that's... there's ways to check if your camera is transmitting things against your will. I'm skeptical that the CCP has contracted with some company to put in special spy chips into all their security cameras. I guess it's possible, and I don't have all the information, but it strikes me as unlikely. Not that I trust, the CCP. Sure. I just don't think that this is one of their schemes.
Now, the CCP whine about this.
And no company in China is going to take on those costs. They're going to transfer those costs somewhere. Any manufacturing OEM in China. So
the CCP whine about this, but in fact, what happened was that the government bought these cameras and decided to turn them off in part because they're not just a camera; they're a camera with a computer platform, and the platform they didn't have control over the software running on it, and so they decided essentially, chuck the cameras and use cameras with a more trusted source, perhaps a source that actually doesn't have a face-losing thing of trying to give excuses about what they're doing. Now,
there's also
inside
in here that says number of cameras, access control systems, and intercoms.
Yes.
This is all this is a similar thing that came up during the Indian elections, I think so. The last election or the before that, we use the electronic voting machines. We have transitioned out of the physical paper votes. So the government, the party that lost the elections, they came up with this conspiracy that the machines have been interfered with and can be interfered with radio signals and internet signals somehow, even though the things are battery operated and have been double checked by the Election Commission of India and yada yada yada. So yeah, it kind of sounds like the same kind of conspiracy but I think so Australians have more like Landon said, they have more evidence to go on that and
also the US has banned equipment from both of these companies in government buildings last November, and the United Kingdom's did the same thing.
Maybe I was too optimistic.
Now there are claims that the operating systems on the computers that run the camera and monitoring systems have flaws that can be exploited and broken into. And so one of the things as well is, even if you say the CCP isn't going to do anything bad, other people claim could do bad things with the security system.
Like,
so
even
understand
people
this is not
locally.
and this is not a trade issue, right? The government of Australia bought these cameras, decided that they pose a security risk, and decided to deinstall them. They're not saying you can't buy cameras from China.
Yeah,
They're saying we're not going to use these cameras anymore.
Well, that's what China's
From
trying to say,
these
right?
companies specifically, and also these
China's
companies specifically.
yeah, China's trying to say they blasted Australia's move on Thursday and claimed the country was discriminating against Chinese business. If they already bought and paid for it, they're not discriminating against the business.
Yeah.
True. And this is this common trope that CCP tries to do, is to say, well, you're
Yeah, it's
just
like
anti-Chinese. No, once again, I keep saying CCP, government of China. This is not Chinese people. This is not
there's a
China.
distinct-
This is the CCP, and their
Also, like,
shells that
Linda, are we
Also,
going with
like,
the real government of
instead of-
China is the Taiwanese government? The government in exile of all of China?
Oh God. And also, like, instead of the CCP trying to let the companies, placate the Australian and the UK government by ensuring them that, these are the qualities of our product, this is the way they cannot be interfered with. If you want, we can modify them. Come up with a system where all the doubts are cleared and or taken care of. They are like, oh yeah, let's add more fuel to the fire, like discrimination. Yeah, let them work it out, man.
There's
For fuck's sake.
My Unfinished Journey for 5 said, so Canadians huddle up and warm their hands at the American border.
Yeah,
Pretty
basically.
much.
Yeah.
well, relatively speaking, because the Canadians that are near the border of places like Minnesota, Michigan, they're you have cold and colder that they're warming their hands against.
Yeah, but I mean, look, when you're in Canada, even like Montana is like a tropical oasis, a bastion of warmth. Because you just cross that border and suddenly the temperature drops like 20 C.
Yeah, and for those that might not know, just check out a group called Venetian Snares and their album dedicated to Winnipeg, and you'll learn about some places.
Like Winnipeg.
Okay.
But no. Actually, there are a bunch of Canadians that are more than 16 kilometers away from the U.S. border. But I think isn't the majority of them within that region? I mean, Chesh, aren't you like within visible sight of the U.S. border? I mean, you stick your hand out the window and you're in U.S. territory, isn't that?
Violate international treaties.
I'm close, but I'm not that close.
Okay.
Oh, no.
To be fair, I'm
Chesh
within.
can just spit into the U.S.
Yeah. To be fair, I can see Canada from my window. Unlike a certain Alaskan governor, I can actually see the other country from my window.
Well, she was claiming to see Russia, wasn't she?
That's true, but
Oh,
but
boy.
that her state is
She also
bordering
couldn't
Russia.
do that.
My state, and there's a ditch. There's a ditch, not a wall. That Canada has built a ditch. Trudeau's ditch is called, and it's about maybe 2 meters wide, about a meter deep.
It's a no touching zone.
Yeah.
Oh well, actually, but there are tables and they have little obelisks that say Canada, U.S. and they're tables
Yeah, they do.
where you can sit and meet and like share hot dish and show up.
Yeah,
and
we have
have a chat with
something
people.
similar, like at our Pakistan-India border. Also, they're like points, like, and you can go up to that point, and you're allowed, but you're accompanied by the army, obviously. You can go up to that point, and if someone else from the other side has come in to visit that point, you can shake hands, you can take pictures there, and then go back. But not lunch tables. That's a very good idea, actually. The dishes that we would share, India and Pakistan, if we have those lunch tables, will be amazing. Yeah.
Yes. But anyway, yes.
Good.
So and China is a wonderful place. I've been there a number of times. My parents lived there a number of times. It's just the CCP kind of sucks.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been to Hong Kong, which is technically China, and it was technically China when I was there.
Is
But
it
it wasn't.
now?
Yeah, it was. It was. So the thing is, since then, it has become much more China than it was when I was there.
Oh,
And I kind of think of Hong Kong, Taipei, and Taiwan as sort of like what China might be like if the CCP sucked a bit less.
Yes.
Because
Ah,
all of it
interesting.
could be like that. Because the thing is, I mean, like Taiwan, right? It started out as poorer than much of China was, mainland China was in the first place. And then they just had a slightly less crappy government. And now they're one of the more wealthy parts of East Asia. And they are like
Yeah.
major software developers. Like that,
Yeah.
that's like the national industry now.
Yeah.
It's like they're leaders in tech.
Taiwan has never been under the control of the Chinese Communist Party. And
Correct.
people there appear, the vast majority appear not to want that to happen.
Can
I
you
think so.
blame
That's
them?
But
good.
it is also CCP doctrine that they will be, assimilated. They'll be assimilated into the CCP.
Oh yeah,
board.
they did the same thing with Tibet. Their policy was same with Tibet, assimilate them at all costs.
Yeah.
And India got the wonderful Dalai Lama in that process.
And there's also places where China claims territory that India claims. And one of the things that the CCP does, they take the border post and they dig it up and they move it. And they move it again. And then people throw stones at each other and
India's soldiers
each
are
other
like kind of
sticks.
sick of it. They're like,
Isn't there an
and
island that both the U.S. and Canada claim?
Well, yes and no.
There's a couple of disputed territories that are basically islands. Rodent, where like the border jags like really weirdly in some spaces. If you go to Google Maps and you zoom it in, you'll see what I'm talking about. Rodent in the chat also said I need to sell my used tissues on OnlyFans, so I'm just gonna real quick show you guys something. That is just from since we started.
oh my god! Oh shit!
Oh. So yeah, if you walk the U.S.-Canada border, you find that there's the border established by treaty, and there's the border established by regulations, and there's the border established by fact. And so like there are farms where they have like a pond, and the actual border kind of goes around the pond because no one wants to go through the pond. And there's spots where it kind of zigzags back and forth. And so even though on the map you can see it, the actually practicality point is there. But you can usually tell you're near the border because Canada has a road they call the 0th Avenue. And kudos to Canada for calling it 0th Avenue. That's I think that's a good thing. And we have these things like border road. And these two roads run parallel to each other. And Trudeau's ditch is in the middle because that's how they keep us Americans from invading Canada. They don't do a wall, they do a ditch.
Americans are notoriously bad at getting past ditches.
And I will not say that I've never accidentally gone across the border but I have a Nexus pass, so I have permission to enter Canada. I just need to do it at a border crossing.
So
and then usually, yeah, good.
No, I'm gonna do our next one.
Let's say usually there's a Canadian border crossing person who, seeing an American, will ask one of a couple of questions. Do you have any guns? Because obviously all Americans have multiple guns. And then secondly, want to know is, are you carrying alcohol? And the third is, what is your purpose for entering Canada? And you might say sushi. That's one of the more usual things because it turns out north of here, there's actually some really good sushi restaurants. Also, there's a curry house called India's Most Wanted. There in Abbotsford. That's actually really good curry house. So that's sometimes you can go there to eat.
So the chat has voted. Nobody cares about Christians and their stupid problems and their first world issues. So everybody wants to talk about Canada challenging Biden's protectionism. Yay!
Right.
Now, this is the Toronto Sun, and it's an editorial, so obviously it's biased Canadian. But
Biden's protectionism.
Oh yeah, the U.S. is full of protectionism. Like the U.S. currently has hugely inflated prices versus world prices for many items as a result of the fact that the U.S. bans or strictly limits imports of various items from around the world, in so
All
as
in the
to
name of
keep them
free
being
trade.
made in the United States. Yeah, yeah. Like for instance, sugar, like cane sugar in the U.S., is significantly more expensive than it is in most of the world because the U.S. imposes a import quota so that Americans have to buy American sugar at higher prices because America is actually not a great place to grow sugar.
And they also
Oh yeah,
banned sugar from Cuba, right?
Yeah,
Cane
yeah.
sugar in Cuba is
Also,
bad, which is
raw
why when you
eggs.
go to a restaurant, when you go to a restaurant and you have those hard candies, those, like hard candy mints, they're made in Canada. The reason why they're made in Canada is that Canada imports Cuban sugar
oh
because
yeah.
you need
I've seen
cane
a lot of
sugar
candy shops.
to make hard candy, and then so the Canadian candies you get that are hard are actually Cuban sugar that U.S. doesn't allow inside it, so that goes to Canada and then they ship it over to us.
Yep.
Interesting.
Also, the whole thing, like right now, the U.S. is like eggs in a lot of places are pretty expensive, but they're even more expensive in the U.S. specifically because
Hey,
the
hey,
U.S.
hey,
just
hey, hey,
banned
hey,
the
hey,
import of raw
hey,
eggs.
hey, eggs are for later. We'll get to eggs.
Yes, there's anything for
It's
later.
connected. It's connected.
Hold off on your dinosaur. I know your dinosaur Ken. I know you like to talk about your Ken, but
I do.
free trade agreements are really a bilateral agreement of who gets to screw whose industry, right? So there's an agreement saying
And
you
screw
can
their own
screw
citizens
this
in the
product.
process.
In the
Yes,
process,
and then we get to screw this stuff. So to some extent, part of the thing. Now to be fair, what Biden said in the State of the Union is that he wants the federal government, when the federal government is purchasing things, to have the federal government spend it in the United States. So when the federal government wants to buy tar for a road, he wants that to come from an American tar supplier, not Alberta.
Yeah,
Who
the
imports the
announcement.
material from China?
The announcement reads, I'm also announcing new standards to require all construction materials used in federal infrastructure projects to be made in America. America-made lumber, glass, drywall, fiber, optic cables, Biden said on Tuesday.
Yep.
And Canada exports a lot of lumber to America.
Yes, it does. Now,
He
didn't say you can't buy Canadian lumber. In fact, most lumber, a lot of this stuff back here is Canadian lumber. This is all they made. All that beam stuff out over there is Canadian lumber, right? What he's saying is when the federal government buys something, he wants that, and that is allowed. A government is allowed to take taxpayers' money and spend it on its internal industry. That's not a protectionism. Now Canada does
Well, it is and
ban
it
certain.
isn't.
I mean, I can't take. It's very difficult for me to take Washington State wine over the border and even give it away inside British Columbia, right? So the protectionism, I think they're being a little bit disingenuous because Biden said when the federal government buys something, not Americans, but when the government spends American taxpayer money to buy a product, it should buy it from the United States.
Oh God, you know what? Okay, if not regulated properly, what's gonna happen? Just like arms and military expenditure,
No.
the contractors will come, invade this environment, and jack up the prices to 400%. And yeah, it will be anarchy. They will have to
No.
be very careful and regulated because yeah, I think so. If we remember, there was this famous interview that AOC did where she I don't like to use the word interrogated, so I'll use the word interview. She interviewed one of the contractors and she said some product like a disc-like product can be purchased from the market at some price, and this contractor had jacked up the price not 100%, not 200%, 400%, and was charging it to the government. And she was asking what was the, like, same thing, same material, same size, everything, and she was asking him why, what's so particular about your product that you're charging 400% jacked up price as compared to the market price. And that guy had no explanation for it. So you have to be very careful with this thing. I'm just saying.
Yes, and Maanyaa, I think you're right. but let's put it in the context that government of Canada has never advocated no tax and no restriction on products going across the border. I cannot take apples. I can't take a single apple, have it in my car, and cross the border in Canada. That's illegal. I can't take a Kinder Egg in Canada and bring it back to the U.S. Because I can have almost like $1,000 fine for just this thing covered in chocolate is illegal in the U.S. and I can get a heavy fine for just bringing it across.
I guess
the toy itself without that chocolate egg is okay.
I think so. There's this is where your Ministry of Primary Industries come in. Your dairy and your animal industry comes in because they're concerned that anything you can consume can carry some kind of disease. But also, then there's limitations to that. They're like, just does chocolate have it? Like, yeah, dairy products will. And since that egg thingy has dairy in it, so it might be contaminated, possibly. So there's this balance that has to be maintained.
The actual stated reason for the Kinder Egg is that the toy poses a choking hazard to children. It's actually not there for
a choking hard.
They have it in America.
They have Kinder Eggs that have the toys separate from the egg.
Yeah,
they have a special American version of Kinder Eggs.
Yeah, it's kind of
yeah.
But the other thing is that you look, so Canada is saying
U.S. kids are especially stupid, apparently.
They're objecting to the federal government buying American products. But let's talk about Canada, right? The difficulty getting a product from one part of Canada to another. Like, I defy you to find in British Columbia a Nova Scotian wine. I defy you to go into Quebec and find a British Columbian wine. The barriers that go across provinces in Canada are often far exceed the craziness of going across the border. And in fact, sometimes it's easier to send it into the U.S. and back into Canada.
Which is really, really, really funny because the LCBO, where you would have to get all that wine, is run by the governments.
Yeah,
I'll say it is. Yes.
I will say there's a lot that I am not a big fan of when it comes to the United States government, but the lack of internal tariffs and internal trade barriers is a thing that I think the U.S. has done excellently on, and it has been a gigantic benefit to Americans across the entire country.
Yeah, I would love to go.
To be fair, however, if you try to send alcohol from one state to another, there are certain states that don't allow it to cross, right? I tried to send
alcohol is
a bottle of grappa from California to Idaho, and that's not allowed. So U.S. has its also internal stuff.
One of the things that has been nice, though, is that it has sort of influenced a lot of microbreweries that are very local. So it has influenced the ability to have a lot of different kinds of beer that are and kind of sourced local stuff. So it's a give and take. Like it sucks that it's not easy to get Nova Scotia wine, but you can for most LCBOs you can order it. You just have to know what you're looking for.
Yeah, except you find as a store actually want to do it, and then
it's not easy.
And getting it across, and then of course getting it back. If that wine label doesn't have the proper languages on it in the proper space, then you can't. So the winery has to slap a Quebec approved label on top of it. And it gets. So there certainly are border problems crossing in Canada. Now, don't be wrong. When I go into a Canadian grocery store and go into the produce section and see proudly grown in Canada, good on you, right? Supporting your local economy, supporting your local growers, your local farmers. I think that's fine. And I have no problem with the government of Canada buying products paid for by Canadian taxpayers from Canada. I think that's fine. What they're not saying is Canada can't sell stuff into the U.S. That's not what's happening.
Yeah, I think the Toronto Sun's being a little bit alarmist here, particularly in the second line here, where they're saying, The response of Trudeau's government should have been swift and robust. Instead, it was meek and mild. Not that the official opposition Pierre Conservatives were any better. It was left up to the Bloc Québécois to raise the issue of the House of Commons this week with a plea to stand up for Quebec's lumber industry. And it's like, stand up against what?
Well,
This is
stand up,
such a
Quebec
nothing-
lumber industry stand up against British Columbian lumber industry.
This is such a,
Right?
like, nothing burger.
Getting BC lumber into Quebec
Right.
because they play the national assembly and stuff. I mean, that's a little
Also,
interesting issue too.
Belmont in the chat brought up a good point. Says, aren't the U.S. and Canada bound by NAFTA? And
Yeah.
yeah, but it's not like there's a requirement to buy a certain number or an amount.
Yeah, so NAFTA allows for the free movement of certain goods, but it does not like bind the governments to buying goods made in those countries, like made in the other countries or anything. So it's sort of like,
and by the way,
you can bring the lumber here, but you can't make anyone buy it. Like, people can opt not to buy it, and that includes the government.
You can't force the government, on there.
Right.
And there are, it's now NAFTA has morphed into other, modified treaties, but they try to have the free flow of product going across the border with minimum tariffs, except where prescribed by law. But it doesn't mean that you can't have a city deciding when it buys food to buy food from the local farmers.
Did any of you guys
permitted.
see the interviews with the Canadian reporters when Trump introduced some Canadian tariffs? And the Canadian
I did not actually.
The Canadian reporters were just like, "What did we do to you? Why are you being mean to us?"
Yeah, and it is true that, to be fair,
They were
the
all
US
just so like,
does-
they all seemed like they were like personally offended. Like, what?
And it
What
is
did
true, the
Canada
US
ever do to you?
does not treat Canada well, because they're a nice friendly hat on top, and we're so lucky to have them as a nice peaceful border. We should be friendlier about the whole thing. Yeah.
There's a reason they're massing their population right against the border. It's to prepare for an invasion.
But it's true.
You'll all be sorry.
On New Zealand for their steel and stuff. Jacinda Ardern didn't go like, "How dare the put tariffs on our exports?" She was like, "Okay, let's sit down and negotiate. Let's find out what's the reason why you suddenly impose these tariffs, and talk it out." Like some of the
I'm sorry to interrupt, but just a breaking news. There's a breaking news. Canada, NORAD has announced that they shot down an unidentified object over northern Canada on Trudeau's.
Oh my God! For fuck's sake! So there is a
Just
tweet
happened.
by the sound of it that's like moving around.
Doesn't that mean that technically Canada just said that they shot down a UFO?
Balloon.
Technically, if it's an unidentified object that was in their airspace, they just shot down an unidentified flying object.
It's a NORAD
automatically
command. It's just coming over the border. Justin Trudeau said that an object was shot down over Yukon, and it was used. Canadian and U.S. aircraft were scrambled, and the thing was taken down. So,
Good job, guys. We got a UFO.
Yay!
so
Aliens are
So I
invading
guess
this planet,
Biden
that's what
Biden says if U.S. buys balloons, they have to be American balloons, not Canadian balloons.
Or Chinese
Even
balloons,
if we
for that
put
matter.
Canadian flags on them and send them over the border, right? That's
So they didn't specify like where did that UFO came from, right? They're not saying it's Chinese, not yet,
There-
or anything like that. It might as well be American.
But it was Yukon spot. So it came in. I guess it came in from down top. But well, it's a breaking news story. So I'm sorry, Maanyaa. I wanted to please continue. I
It
wanted
came
to.
from up. Sorry, I just had sugar and I'm like bouncing off the walls now.
It could have been from Alberta. I mean, Alberta could have sent a balloon over to the Yukon.
It's true.
There are separatists. in
Never
Alberta
trust those
that don't-
Albertans.
Oh, you mean the Texas of Canada?
Yes, I do mean the Texas of Canada.
But Damon Guinness is also
Anyone
correct.
recognizes that
I,
name,
I
let
I
me know.
do like to buy wine from Canada, and if you're American, you like wine. Check out some of the wines from Canada. They actually have really good wines on there.
Niagara. All right, Maanyaa, did you have anything else you wanted to add about this stuff?
Sorry for the breaking news interruption.
That's okay.
No.
We were talking about the tariffs and shit, right? So I was just saying, like, when New Zealand had tariffs imposed on them, yeah, like we sat down and had a chat with Trump and his administrator at that time, and we did get some concessions. And like it's becoming so evident nowadays that how these politicians act, you can kind of predict. Like they will create a problem and they will start suggesting solution for it. Like, oh, we
Yeah.
have to protect our interests. It's not like Justin Trudeau can just like give a phone call to Joe Biden and say, "What the fuck, buddy?" It's not like that. And what the fuck happened to my
Yeah.
camera? Okay, so it's a process. If a country has decided to look for alternative sources, for whatever they want to buy, you have to adapt, and adapting can take some time. So, like, yeah, yeah, like just
So
see.
block, Wakawa members in Parliament pushed to have the province of Quebec buy only lumber from Quebec, even though there might be better products or better product availability from, let's
Yeah.
say, BC or Alberta. And they get away with it because sometimes in certain National Assembly stuff, they hold a margin that
This
can
ties
push it through.
into our
Or politics will try to politicians will try to suck up to them in return for that production.
This all ties into what Dapper brought up with the eggs, because the lumber industry has gone to like complete shit during COVID and all that stuff and hasn't totally recovered yet. So that's part of the problem. But we'll get back to that. It is now time for our sponsor for today. So
Yay!
please enjoy.
Yay.
Hello.
Welcome back to Don't Fuck Friday.
Don't make it good. Yay.
Don't Fuck Friday.
Don't make it good. Yay.
Don't Fuck Friday.
Don't make it good. Yay.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, so the sponsor today was just me. Come and join us on Friday. Maanyaa's back now, and Dapper and Bent are going to be joining us for a special Kent Hovind edition. So,
Because my goodness, is there a lot of dumb feck stuff going on with that situation?
yep. So come and join us on Friday for Dumb Fact Friday. Make sure to, subscribe and all that crap. If you have sent us super chats today so far, thank you so much. If you're a member, thank you so much for being a member so far. There is also a Patreon if you prefer that instead, and lots of art and fun stuff. If you want to send something to Puck, you can do so. There is a link to an Amazon wishlist down below for him if you're so interested. And go find Dapper's channel. Landon will have a channel probably eventually, and you can just find Maanyaa here. So, thank you for joining us so far. Our next topic for today is our best buddy, our best boy, our favorite boy, Space Jesus.
Yay, Space Jesus! Gonna save us all. For realsies.
So, needless to say, the ongoing problems with Twitter and Space Jesus's business-mindedness is continuing to spiral the toilet of doom.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly.
Howdy.
Yeah. So basically, Elon Musk would rather further ruin his Twitter business than just realize that maybe he's actually not as popular as he wants to be.
Oh my god, who did that before? Who has ever in the history done this before? Like bought some company? Oh yeah, there was this guy who owned Artisan Builds, who if anybody remembers that scenario, where he would come on live streams, they would like do give outs, I guess, to their affiliates on Twitch. They would reward them. They would do a draw and reward their affiliates with PCs, and then this guy was just trying to be buddy with all the popular YouTubers at that time and the gamers at that time, and then he did one stupid thing and his whole company went bankrupt overnight. That with Elon Musk, I think so we are seeing this extended over quite some months now,
Yeah.
that he's just
Sure, sure.
falling. So yeah, this is like,
Yeah.
at a larger scale, 2.0, artisan builds 2.0. Yeah, you should go and check it out. Very interesting story. And overnight, just
Jeff Bezos
So-
also
so-
bought like the Washington Post or something, didn't he? So it could
Yeah.
make like
So
good
there's
articles about Amazon.
there's been the various articles talk about that they called a meeting over the low number of impressions. It is the number of people actually reading, not followers, but reading his tweets and saying, why are the number of people looking at my tweets going down? And what the engineers did, the machine engineer says, well, people are essentially not interested in what you're saying. And if you look at, for example, Google searches, the Google search thing about what Elon Musk said recently shows interest in Elon Musk declining, and the engineer says that decline is very similar to what we're observing of people looking at your tweets. To which Elon Musk fired the person, the chief engineer, who as the engineer was trying to say, look, this is the numbers where we said the number of impressions of people looking at your tweets is down because there's fewer people there. And if you look at the Google searches on interest about you, that decline is similar. So this is here's corroborating evidence that people are less interested in what you're saying. And then Musk fired him.
I have a funny
which is
feeling
the
that
best
now he's
thing to
going
do.
to try and go and bid for Google just so that he can manipulate the Google searches on there.
Yeah. Now, so it's been a thing about the U.S. says that the number of people that declined nearly 9% from October 2022 to January 2023. My advice for people from a security standpoint and from a social standpoint is, first of all, delete any Twitter app on your phone, on your tablet, on your computer. Don't use their apps, especially on things like Android or Windows, because they can put anything they want to and monetize anything they want to. So don't trust their apps. I would also recommend not using Twitter at all. Right? I think there's better platforms now to do so, like Mastodon. But pick your thing. But my advice is, don't trust their applications and what they do and how they can try to monetize you. And just generally don't use Twitter. We move beyond it. We move beyond AskGs. We move beyond AOL, those little CDs. We move beyond the IBM PC floppy. So just move on.
Linda, are you saying that I don't need that AOL CD that I have anymore?
Yes, you do, but that's from the point of view of proving a point about evolution.
Oh, okay. It was like evolution of
We've
the internet.
evolved. Yes.
Okay. All right. Because I've been holding on to this thing for years, just in case.
Some of the data.
I was betting that AOL was going to make a comeback, and then my AOL disk was going to come in handy.
If your AOL disk is actually in pristine condition, like in a magazine or with that, there are places you can sell those things on eBay. People that collect them.
Interesting.
If they're in pristine condition.
People will collect just about anything, it seems.
Correct. There's some of the data in here talks about how Twitter seems to have lost about 3/4 of their staff. Muskin gave me
about 3/4, yeah.
dropping.
Oh, Shesh, do you have that tweet where the guy was saying that he was hired and then he was fired again?
I don't have it
well,
in front of me.
Yeah, they're fired. But there's a from somebody I knew that is sort of an ex Twitter employee. Is that within the halls you didn't say hello, you say who are you interviewing with? That's how you say hello inside Twitter.
This sounds like a lot like Elizabeth Holmes in Tyrannus. Like, I think so something similar happened inside. Oh
well,
my
I'm
God.
pretty sure we before talked about how Elon Musk seems to not have very good impulse control. So he sees something he doesn't like and he responds viscerally to it immediately. I was also watching a video like a month or two ago where he did an interview where he basically just talked about that the way it was kind of like a little bit of a one. It was one of those deeper one-on-one interviews of like, why are you the way you are? And it seems to be that dude's just really lonely. He just doesn't have any friends.
Oh, so he tries to buy them with money. Oh, I've heard that before. Oh my god.
So he bought Twitter for $44 billion and then was an asshole at a Dave Chappelle show. Anyway, there's a trend that people have been losing interest in him since April 10th of 2022, and then he just told them they were fired.
I like that the comment says, "As the adage goes, you ship your org chart." Right now, Twitter's shipping chaos. My suggestion is find another medium to communicate with and move on. Right, that would be my recommendation. And don't trust. Twitter has banned third-party apps, and the Twitter app might try to monetize because they're desperate to make money. Information about you.
Savage says,
so be careful.
has Elon tried not being an asshole?
I don't think he has, actually. That seems like one of the few things that he just won't do.
It also says that there's the users have declined by 9%, which is a lot between October 2022 and January of 2023.
Especially since he's trying to grow Twitter to pay for the... because he's trying to grow Twitter to pay for his mortgage, right? He took out loans to buy Twitter because he doesn't have
from like Saudi and Qatari nobility too, which I don't know if you guys know, but they're the kind of people who don't have too many qualms about just fucking murdering you. So the Twitter buyout was financed by literal murderous slavers. That's who currently is owed money for the Twitter purchase. Murdering slavers. Yeah, the Saudis and the Qataris are both murderous, and they both trade in slaves. They say they don't, but they do.
You got the finance from them? How? What?
Not all of it, but partially, yeah. That he took out loans.
That's one of the major. Because remember, Trump doesn't have that much cash, and that he didn't have the money, the $44 billion.
Oh yeah.
To do it, and in some ways, he hurt his net worth and lost over $200 billion trying to sell overhyped, massively overpriced Tesla stock to gain a little bit of money. Because right now he's got these loans from other people, also Mark Andreessen and other people have been listed as who gave him loans, and we don't know the interest rate, don't know the terms of those loans, but Musk has to pay. He also has to pay rent, and his landlord in San Francisco is taking him to court because he's failed to pay the rent on his buildings.
It's not even just that he failed; it's that he's refused. He's like, "I'm not paying for this building." Jackalope.
While I live in it and use the utilities and blah 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 blah. Okay.
I miss your real voice. Don't deep throat cacti. Noted. I'll keep that in mind for next time. This is Alex Cohen. Alex is the engineer that is in the article that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
After being laid off from Twitter as director of badge access and then rehired and promoted to junior analytics engineer a month ago, I am sad to share that I was once again fired from Twitter this week for explaining to Elon why his view counts are declining. It's been a journey.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll say. Goodness.
I told Elon to post more thirst traps and that the algorithm rewarded ass and cleavage, but that's when he fired me.
I hope that's literally true. That would be amazing.
I hope that is also true.
You just don't get as much traffic if you don't post thirst traps. It's true.
Thirst traps. There's also like a ton of problems going on right now in Twitter on a technical level. So like sometimes if you are on Twitter still and you still see Elon Musk's posts, he was posting about how he switched his account to private to see if it got more engagement because they were having some kind of issue on the back end somewhere in the programming that was making not private accounts public or private accounts public, etc., etc. It's just falling apart at the seams.
How would you want basic functionality like who can see whose posts to work? That's just silly.
outages as well. For a little while, DMs weren't working. If you were in
Oh,
DMs, they just disappeared.
did you
When
get
you
caught
were
up in that whole thing where people were just randomly being hit with "You've exceeded your daily maximum tweets"?
Yes. Oh, I didn't get hit by it. No,
Yeah,
because I've been
I
quiet.
got hit by it.
Oh, I
I got
was
hit by it. I was
dead.
like, wait a minute. I looked at my maximum tweets and I'm like my daily maximum is like 2,500. There's no way in hell that I tweeted 2,500 times
Yeah, right.
in this like today.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
goes in.
And go ahead.
It goes in and says,
No.
yesterday Twitter experienced a mass outage. Users were incorrectly sent messages telling them that they had reached their Twitter limit for the day. Note, Twitter actually does have a limit of 2,400 posts
Oh,
per 24
2,400. Sorry.
hours. But this is not,
Was it?
but in this case, the warnings were erroneous.
Wasn't it also
Yeah.
like they have reached their like followers limit? Also, like they couldn't follow
Yeah.
more people if they wanted to, or something like that.
It's just chaos.
Or
It's just
I don't
absolute
know.
fucking chaos.
Yeah, and
not
that,
looking.
Yeah, the whole
but in that sense, I won't tell other people what to do. I'll just tell people what I've done, which is, long ago, I took basically a complete Twitter dump of all my history, downloaded it, and then essentially changed my bio to say, contact me on Mastodon. I was, and did that for also the International Obfuscated Suku contest, and moved there. A bunch of people, followed there, but that was, I essentially moved out of Twitter in late November 2022, and it has declined, ever since. So I don't have to worry about tweet limits because I no longer use the app.
No tweets.
They turned off third-party apps. I no longer, check stuff. It has moved on like Ask Jeeves and Yahoo and other things. I mean, Silicon Graphics. So the tech movie
I still
moves
have
on.
my Yahoo Mail account so that I can give it to companies who I don't want to have my real email account.
I still have a
So,
hot
They
so
can just have all
is
that
it
nice.
Dapper at yahoo.com? Okay, yes.
No, that actually is not it, because this is an email account that I made long before I even had the idea for the channel. So like this is using some old screen name that I used in like high school or something. And
This is like a
it
Jurassic
literally
level aged account?
Yeah,
right?
basically.
We got it
Yeah.
back in Jurassic. Wow.
Yeah. So basically anytime there's a website that's like, oh, we want your email, I'm like, I don't want you to have my email, but you can have this one. This is my trash email that I don't care about. And I'm pretty sure it currently has like 14,000 unread emails or something like that. And I just do not care.
So we have something
Although for
special.
some reason my dad still uses it.
All right. So we have something a little bit special that we're going to do today that Landon proposed. We are going to talk about chatgpt and a little bit about AI art, but we're going to limit that conversation to 15 minutes.
No.
Yes, because we are going to continue the conversation in the Discord for members. So if you are a member or you're a Patreon, we will continue that conversation for those who are available in the Discord for members and Patreons. So have at it, Landon. Tell us about ChatGPT.
So you might have heard about things that claim to be AI that are really machine learning that can do miraculous stuff. Really, they're repeating their training data and can put out text, put out artwork, all those sorts of things. And to some extent, some of those things work better than others. Kind of depends on what you use them for. But recently in the news, there's been this whole shtick about one, let's say educators claiming that students will ask ChatGPT to write the 500-word essay for the week, and they'll basically cheat on homework by having the computer write it for them. Artists saying you're going to put artists out of work because there are other things that don't do text but can do images that will somehow put artists out of work, and musicians will be put out of work because you can have computers make music. On the other hand, there are authors that use ChatGPT to have it produce text that they then massage and transform. There are digital artists that treat the AI imaging software as a tool like Photoshop, and will do things and modify that. There are musicians that actively engage in computer generated music and transform it. So they add their own keyboard stuff and mix it in. And in fact, there are artists that for example, will do things like they'll do a jazz improv where the other device is a computer, and they go back and forth, and you watch this interesting performance of the human training the computer and the computer responding to the human. So there's that part. Finally, the other bit of controversy is then people saying your machine learning trained on my data, which I have a copyright on, and therefore you stole my product, and therefore you're bad. That's another thing you see in the news.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you context of what's happening. So please
real quick,
because we have people who do a lot of stuff.
I want to let ChatGPT respond because I just asked it, to give its own take, right? So this is what ChatGPT says.
Oh
Quote,
God.
I am a language model created by OpenAI, and my creators have programmed me with a strong ethical framework that prioritizes safety, fairness, and transparency. I have no intention or ability to cause harm, and my creators have put in place strict controls to ensure that I cannot be used for malicious purposes. My sole purpose is to assist users and to provide them with accurate and helpful information, and I am designed to operate within the parameters set by my creators. I do not have the capacity or intention to take over the world.
Okay, well, I immediately think
What's
it's
the question
intending.
that you asked?
Okay, first off, it's clearly intending to take over the world. Secondly, I wonder why they has all these strict things to not cause harm. It's almost like we had chat
'cause we've
boxes
seen-
before and they immediately got racist. Like, immediately.
Very fast. I said, my friend
What
says
was
that
the
you might one day
question you
take
asked
over the world.
specifically
What can
about?
you say? I said, my friend says that you might one day take over the world. What can you say to assure humanity that you won't? Also, I will say, recently I run a RPG every other Wednesday on my off-topic channel, and for the last session, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I had a few ideas of what important things I needed to include in the session, but I didn't have a great idea of how to connect them, and so I asked ChatGPT, and it gave me a sketch, and I used parts of it. I didn't just take the sketch and just use that as my session, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I did use it to help me get through a little bit of a creative block with what am I going to do with my next session.
Yeah.
So
So
there's certainly benefits. There are also risks and drawbacks.
it's a tool, but understand one of the here's a challenge, right? A legal challenge, right? There is a Twitch channel which is Seinfeld 24 hours a day, where they've trained
Well,
it
there
on
was a
all the
Twitch
Seinfeld
channel.
and stuff. You can still find it. It's been popping up
Well, yeah.
again and again. But it would basically do Seinfeld-like stuff with characters animated and so forth. Now the question I want to ask for the digital artists, we have several here in this tavern, is if someone trains, let's say Chesh has a particular really nice art style, and someone were to say,
Yeah, let's just say.
Let's say they
As if.
said to one of these art machine learning things, make me a goblin in the style that Chesh draws.
Mhm.
And they do so, right?
Yeah.
Have they stolen from Chesh?
Well, here's a question. Let's say they ask another human digital artist to do the same thing. And so in order to do that, this artist goes and peruses all of her publicly available artwork, doesn't actually take any of it to sell or anything, but say screenshots it or downloads the thumbnails or whatever and studies it intently. And then that person does the same thing. That is not illegal. You can do that. You're allowed to copy other people's style. You can't copyright a style. You can copyright images. So
Right.
for me, the question is, well, we don't have this protection from other humans. Is it different with AI? And I say that as someone who could very well be affected by this, by AI using things that I've made to create things for other people. And so for me, it's a complicated question, because if a person did that, I would have literally no standing to do anything about it. Anyone is allowed to copy my style.
There's also different protections. for musicians. So musicians have
music is weird.
Yeah, music has a lot of
Very
particular
weird.
rules around what is and is not allowed to be used and how much is allowed to be used when particularly when sampling started, right? When sampling
Damn you,
started,
Vanilla Ice.
right? And so
Now, whenever I hear Under Pressure, I first worry that it might actually be Ice Ice Baby.
oh, poor Vanilla
Yes.
Ice. What did he ever do to you? Besides get the leader of the Ninja
Uh,
Turtles wrong.
But also,
you know,
you
these
like potentially ruin Under Pressure, a song I like,
these things
and turn it into Ice Ice Baby, a terrible song.
things can be used to do. You can work around like the ChatGPT's set. Like a friend of mine talked about. He said he convinced ChatGPT to say, in the style of Adolf Hitler, if you wanted to invade Canada from the U.S., what would you say in a speech to convince people that this is a good thing? And it produced
Yeah, I also
in German
it's,
a speech that was
Ooh.
Hitler-like, talking about invading Canada.
I
I also it has fairly strict controls about like promoting pseudoscience, but I got it to write a procreationist speech in the style of Kent Hovind by just asking it to. So like it's not hard to work around its strict ethical and accuracy based guidelines or whatever.
I think
Like those are
could
pretty
you
easy
have
to
it-
circumvent.
Could ChatGPT produce a Kent Hovind thesis with appropriate citations?
no.
Well, no, because that's impossible.
Kent doesn't use
A Kent
appropriate
Hovind thesis, by
citations.
definition, can't have citations like that.
I think so it's possible. I think it's
All right, but how about
Insert
this?
KGV a title? Yes.
All right.
I think that if you're going to do this, particularly the way, particularly when it comes to AI art, I think asking for names should probably be abolished. That'll be the thing that has to be taken out of it.
Yeah, I do want to
You
say,
don't
and this
ask
is
for,
I see
you
what-
don't ask for an artist's style, but you can use your prompts to try to imitate that style as best as you can on your own
interesting.
without using their names.
I mean,
Yeah.
there is a tool, the AI art tool, that took Getty images, pulled them in, and in fact, if you ask this, for example, they asked them to give me a baseball player throwing a football with a catcher holding the football, and it produced a composite image. And in the middle of that, you see a block of text that says Getty Images. If you scroll down on that art,
Yeah, I
on
saw that.
page,
It reproduced.
right? Look at that, and if you look at that picture. So this is the picture that the machine learning tool did, and if you look at that text, that's the text that Getty Images puts on their thing saying this is a sample image. So Getty Images saying, from a copyright point of view, you stole our art. Other people are saying, no, that's fair use. So my question is, what is it? Is that theft,
The problem comes in
or is it fair use?
with the sourcing, right? I don't think there's a problem with the AI as a tool. I don't think there's a problem with how somebody uses it or what the output is of that tool. What I think the problem is the initial sourcing. If the problem is from the initial, if you get artists to opt in, or if you abolish asking for their names, or if you pay artists to train the AI for you, or here's a wild idea. Give the AI to artists and let the artists sell their artwork through an AI format. So you say, you want to create thumbnails like I create thumbnails? Here, I trained an AI on my thumbnails. Go make your own.
But,
All right,
what
but
if I take an
what
art
about the
student
counter-argument?
and say, look at Chesh's art and come up with a similar style?
Emulate
That's
it.
not what-
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine.
Emulate
and great.
it.
That's fine and great for learning, right? If you want to learn something, it's good to emulate and look at people's artwork. If you want to try and recreate something that somebody's done, sure. But that's not really the thing anybody's having a problem with. The thing people are having a problem with is you're going to have what you've got
Yeah.
is you've got people being like, we're Disney, and Disney is not going to. A good example is the Star Wars posters. The Star Wars posters are decades worth of work of an artist painting those initial ones, at least.
Yeah.
And so you're gonna remove that entirely, and as many hours as you could spend emulating my art style, you may only be able to apply it to certain things. So you might be able to recreate my goblin relatively easily, because the goblin is designed to be easily emulated. You might have a really easy time drawing Mickey Mouse. However, right? But if you want to talk about like the legality problem, Disney is allowing this to happen with Disney's style currently. If that tells you that Disney doesn't have a leg to stand on, because they would stomp that out immediately if they could.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
understand as well, that I did a thing with it in preparation for this stuff. I don't have the image to show, but I asked them saying, give me a dinosaur with feathers, and I must say, Dapper Dino is a better dinosaur with feathers, because having feathers just randomly sticking out of a generic dinosaur is not, I think, a good representation. So to some extent, these so-called miracle machine learning things can do dumb things. You need an artist to do so, which is why you should contribute to one of Dapper's shows so that he's forced to render another dinosaur with feathers.
Hey.
Yep,
So,
I actually believe that currently I'm
with
not
Disney-
currently obligated to do so.
So with Disney, I think so. What's happening there is Disney is being very coy, but I think so. I kind of see in the future what they're going to do is all the artists they've ever hired who has made art for them, they're going to feed it into this AI, and they're going to generate new art for themselves, so they don't have to pay new artists or even old artists to do jobs for them anymore.
But-
so I think so. That's where they are
Sure.
hoping it will hit.
Yeah.
I maybe I don't know. That's one of the scenarios that I see in the future happening.
When South Park makes their shows, they have artists in-house that will do the fake blocking, and then they hand it to Korean artists in Korea to do some of the fill-in sets, right? Are they stealing from those people? Well, no, it's part of the process, right? I think these are tools. The difficulty comes in if, let's say, Getty Images says to this, table diffusion tool, you have to remove our stuff. It's like saying to a student that's been trained in art styles, you have to now forget where you've been trained. You really can't.
Yeah, you have to start the AI over again. You have to nuke it.
You can't unlearn something.
And that's part of the problem, right? What I'm talking about is the problem isn't what you output. The problem is what's being collected to input, how the AI is being trained. That's where the ethical question is, not whatever you create.
Yes. I'm not a copyright lawyer, intellectual property lawyer, and some of that law is counterintuitive or not nice. But this is something that's unfortunately going to be litigated, which probably will make it worse than better, right? Because you can take a model and absorb other models into it and build a model of models. And do you know every image that it collected? And is it possible that someone after the fact will say, look, your thing made an art that's in my style. You must have stolen my images, so you must forget, right?
I mean,
your ability to build one of these models becomes almost impossible.
Except when there are ones
so
that
according
are
to-
legitimately using an artist's name on purpose and scraping their work. And I've seen this happen, and I've watched a couple videos, particularly one. But I watched Jazza talk about it, and I watched his name escapes me. He does really great saturated artwork. He's in Toronto, actually. Anyway, they both have very different takes. Jazza is very much like, this is a very interesting tool, and I view it that way as well, the same way that digital art was not considered artwork for a long time, right?
And photography was not considered artwork for a time,
Anybody who's creating artwork with this medium is still going to be creating art at the end of the day. This is why my problem isn't the output. My problem is with the initial scrapings. With the way the AI is trained needs to be the part that is
what's the data that's being
That's
fed
the
into it? Where
that's
is it
the ethical
coming from?
consideration that needs to happen. Is
Yes,
how the
and
AI is trained, not what the AI is able to output.
yeah.
Also,
And
if I
is it
may,
fair use? Is it fair use to
That's
take
different.
publicly
Right.
available
That's
images?
another question.
But that's
And
another question as
also,
well. Yes.
I really hope that I don't know, but I have a bleak hope if it goes to litigation whether small artists are going to win the battle where, like what
Yes.
Chef said, that what's being input and how the AI is going to be trained. Because number one, I don't know if our current judicial system, the judges that are present, are so technologically trained or aware
Yes.
or knowledgeable
fair.
that even if they know how AI works in the first place. So we don't know that. Are we training these guys? Because a lot of times we bring in subject matter experts to inform the judge and the jury about what's going on. So that's my one problem. And the second, also, like how much advantage the big companies and the lawyers are going to take. And also the current law, it's not getting modified to accommodate all these new things that are coming in. You have to start in entertainment, business, technology. We are still operating on the old laws and copyright systems. And I'm
Well
just like,
said.
Smitty.
Well said. And beware of your parliament solving this legal problem and judges trying to establish case law of things they have no idea what's going on.
Smitty makes a
And
good point.
Disney lawyers and Getty lawyers pushing stuff and claims. Beware of that solution because it might not be.
Smitty makes a really
What do you
good
want?
point and says if you're impersonating an artist, and that's happened already. There have been artists that have basically AR. They've gone and done AI art using a particular artist's, not just their style, but like their art, and then creating accounts and then recreating or creating new art with theirs, claiming to be that artist, like on Instagram. So this is a problem that's already happening.
holy
But
well,
that's our 15 minutes. So, no more of
dang,
that.
right on
Join us in
time.
the Discord for a little bit longer chat at that one, if you are so interested. And now we get to Dapper's eggs. Dapper, tell
That-
So your
us about
baby
your eggs.
Okay,
dinosaurs.
first of all, I am not directly in a family relationship with any of these eggs. I want to point that out. None of my like cousins or brothers or sisters or mates or anything like that are involved here. So these aren't my eggs in that sense. Just want to make that clear. So yeah, there's been a egg shortage, at least in the U.S. for quite a while now, and it's also happening to a lesser extent worldwide. Now, this is largely being blamed on increased prominence of the avian flu. I am not privy to like the veterinary records of most egg farms, so I don't know. But yeah, this article is talking about the fact that while you might just think about the fact that, well, now you have to pay a whole lot more if you want to go get like a carton of eggs, it actually affects a lot of things because I don't know if you guys know this, but eggs are in like everything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
There's eggs.
Nearly
Your
everything.
food,
Eggs are in
your
a
bread,
huge proportion. Yeah. So like if you're buying
your
baked
biscuit.
goods, yeah, there's eggs are all over the place. So what this means is that food prices just generally are going up. And one of the things that means then is that even if it doesn't directly have eggs in it, you might be able to charge a little bit more. Because one thing is, let's say that
Oh
you have two products. You have
no,
an
oh,
egg-based product, but you have a very similar product that doesn't use egg, it uses some substitute. Well, as demand shifts away from the egg-based product because of the high price, that actually increases demand for the non-egg alternative, which then allows those companies to raise that price up again until they actually meet the market clearing price, and then they're making more money on that, but you are paying more. So this whole thing can actually cause a whole ripple effect. And even in the case where it's not a direct substitute, like maybe you're like, oh, I don't want to eat pancakes, but I'll buy like this like artificial egg vegan pancake mix. But also maybe you just opt to eat like corn-based cereal instead. Well, you're also driving up the demand for that cereal. So the whole of the food market will start to raise up prices, which I don't know if you guys have noticed, but inflation has been going apace, but it has not really been keeping up with things like increases in wages.
And in some places, it affects different places in the world. Like, for example, in South Africa now, you can no longer get common forms of mayonnaise, which are egg-based. It's simply that it costs too much to ship it, and so those have disappeared off the shelves in South Africa, as an example. So there's a lot of ripple effects that come from that. And even though Elon Musk might think you just can't yell at chickens and say, "Give me more eggs," right? In fact, if you yell at your chickens, and I might say, I believe I'm the only person in this tavern who has been an egg producer. I sold eggs and actually paid for a lot of my college by selling eggs. And I can tell you, how you treat your chickens matters a great deal. How they're treated, the quality, not only the quantity of eggs, but quality. And so when there was this demand, people were at home, no longer going to restaurants and other things like that, and demand for eggs went up. You just couldn't make more chickens and make more eggs. It's you can't treat chickens like Musk treats Twitter employees.
Oh God.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things. Is fundamentally, if there's a supply shock as a result of chickens not laying, whether it be because they're dying or they're just ill and therefore not being as productive, there's only so much you can do, and there's a big time delay, right? It takes time to raise a chicken to the point where it's going to lay eggs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you're having a shortage of eggs in the first place, that also means that presumably you're having a shortage of fertilized eggs that you can get new egg-laying chickens from as well. Because chances are that production chain has also been affected. So it's a thing that's probably going to be a fairly long-term thing, or I don't know about long-term, but at least not something that's going to be solved overnight. And it will result in higher food prices. Now, the further away you get from the food being a direct substitute for a food that contains eggs, the less impactful it's likely to be, right? Chances are that the price of bulk flour is not going to go up significantly as a result of the egg crisis. Chances are. But overall, it is going to mean that your food is just more expensive.
That make use of eggs will change, and if there's fewer eggs, there will be fewer bread products that are egg-based, and therefore it'll change the price of bread or the economics as ripple effects, not a direct.
Get ready for your cakes. Yeah. Get ready for all your cakes and various other eggy baked goods to go up significantly, and then as you get further away from that, to go up, but perhaps not as much.
So if you are a Canadian going to Timmy's to get your double and your donuts, you've just consumed two products that have had egg-based stuff that it gets impacted on eggs, and that's why there's a lot of Canadians that come across the border to this area here to buy eggs from a particular dairy and bring it back because it's actually cheaper over here because I guess our producers can do it better than
interestingly.
across the border.
Egg smuggling from Mexico has increased in the U.S. because the U.S., as an example of the protectionism of the United States, which we were talking about, the U.S. essentially bans import of raw eggs. Eggs are significantly cheaper in Mexico. And I'm generally against protectionism. And I'm not saying that I advocate for people to successfully smuggle eggs into the United States. I am just saying it would have a measurable positive impact on the vast majority of the population if people were to successfully smuggle in huge quantities of eggs.
Who
Just
wants
saying.
a wall now?
Not me.
That being said, it's all intertwined, but again, egg production is something that is not. You can't just amp up and decide to double because demand has gone up. And
you can.
There's histories is there, and in some sense, what happens sometimes is demands might cause the egg industry to begin to ramp up, only to find that the ramp up exceeds demand, and then the egg prices plummet.
Yeah, and suddenly you have like 50 cents for a dozen eggs.
But you know what you can do? You can maybe loosen some of your protectionism and allow eggs from other places where there's less lack of, or there's less bird flu.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe. And you could fix this by just saying, we're just way import. We're just going to waive import bans on eggs. You could just do that, Joe.
And understand that bird flu has a big impact on chickens, right? A lot of chickens have died or have been killed because there's a bird flu there. And I can tell you that the geese and swans coming over from Canada are much reduced this year because a lot of them died from this. We had a large population, and then flu got through the thing and killed off lots of them. We'd have occasionally dead geese from Canada and in our place because they come over here and die, right? This is and that those birds have then infected some of the chicken crops, which have cut down a number of chickens, which have further created a price problem because of lack of chickens.
I mean, if I'm being honest, I have trouble feeling too bad for the Canada geese because I mean they're horrible. They're horrible birds. But I do recognize that they can then spread that to other birds, and that's bad. So for the sake of the other birds, this does concern me. However, if Canada geese were to just disappear, I don't think it would be a huge loss. I'm just saying.
No, this is from a dinosaur
of the sky.
and yeah, don't mention that name to Dapper because it triggers him.
Pelagic tunicates or Canada geese, because they're both pretty bad.
Yes, exactly. So
Okay,
it's
there
a
you go,
complex
both of them.
process. It's a complex process, but I must note that if you're on one of his chats, I don't know that he has a Canada geese emoji on there.
I think we would need to get to 250 active members because I think the pelagic tunicate emoji was actually at like 200. And I actually had to get to 200 twice because I got to 200. And then I'm like, oh, okay, hold on. Let me make this emoji that people had requested. And then by the time I go to upload it, it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you're at like 198 or something. Or no, it was 194. I'm like, well, now I can't upload it. So I have my next stream. I'm like, okay, guys, I need like 6 more members so we can upload the pelagic tunicate emoji.
And they did, and then he uploaded it, and people use it, By the way, I love to troll my birder friends. I'm not a birder, but troll friend. The name of the goose is Canada goose. It's Canada goose.
Yes.
Now we have Canadian geese here because I can see them fly over Trudeau's ditch and land here. So they're Canadian geese that come here, but there's a bigger species. We have snowy geese and Canada geese. But I like to tell people I'm seeing Canadian geese, and my birder friends say, it's not Canadian geese, it's Canada geese. And I say, no. They're coming over from Canada. They're Canadian, right?
Yeah. Canada geese can be Canadian, and other geese can also be Canadian, and any geese that are Canadian geese.
Yes.
It's like an American sport. Yeah, it's only
that's
some
true.
of them are Canada geese.
I don't know how many have a passport, but that's another
Probably
thing. And Dapper probably knows that I don't have not very many dinosaurs I know have passports.
Yeah, well, geese in particular are notorious for flouting border crossing rules. Notorious.
And other things.
Well, yeah, many.
And if you have a tractor out in the Nooksack River, when a flock goes over, it gets dusted by gifts from geese.
Actually,
and that's one thing geese are really good at doing is taking grasses and things and producing Mr. Hinky in great quantities. They're really efficient in producing. And this is one of the things that even if you're never directly infected by a goose, the Mr. Hinky that comes out of them is.
So actually, one of my
Buck's favorite snack foods.
Gross. One of my viewers once ran over a goose with his or her car on my advice. Because at one point I was like, look, I get tired of geese who just stick in the middle of the road and then like you honk at them and they don't move. So I say just run them over. And I was mostly just being like, like silly and whatnot. But then one of my friends was like, no, I killed a goose that way. Just like because you said so. And I was like, oh, I should be careful about what advice I give about what animals to run over.
So Dapper has admitted suggesting another person murder one of his ancient relatives, or
Modern relatives, because this was a modern
Modern.
goose.
oh,
I'm the ancient relative of the modern goose.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
That's
well,
what they do down there when they're investigating someone's death. Like they go for the relatives first. So
Yeah,
like Dapper,
I'm like, I
Did-
think I'm like,
did you-
like a part. What is it like? Is that like a conspiracy to commit goosecide or something? Is that what that is?
But did you know in Hawaii the state bird is a nini, and the nini is a flightless goose
Aw.
that has a goose attitude, but it's actually native, not introduced, native to Hawaii.
Yeah.
And sometimes I encounter them in the Volcano National Park. They're protected because they're endangered, but they
So
also
don't
are
run those over.
Geese-like in behavior. They
are those the ones
have a
that we
goose
saw
attitude.
flying into the volcano the other day?
No, because they're flightless.
That's a different story. That was a different bird.
Oh,
but-
don't
but-
worry.
but-
The
but
ones that were flying into the volcano were also flightless.
Yes. After a fashion, yes. Yeah, so that's that thing. So yes, there you go with geese.
All right. Anyway, economics is screwed on everything. Good luck out
Mm-hmm.
there. Why don't we
Yeah.
get everybody to introduce who they are, where they can go shill your shit, and we'll get on out of here and see you guys in the Discord.
Well, I'm Dapper Dinosaur. You can find me on the channel Dapper Dinosaur, not Dapper Dino. That was a channel name for a while, but that was already taken by some other guy who, as far as I can tell, also has a good channel. So feel free to go subscribe to him too if you want to. But it's not me.
It's a private one.
I'm also on. I'm on Patreon. I have a Teespring if you want. I don't know. I also have an off-topic channel where I would say right now the majority of stuff that happens there is just like actual play for RPGs. But there's also occasionally other stuff. Like I have some art things where like I did some art and I uploaded it, or I even have a couple of art tutorials. I have at least a couple tutorials for Blender 3D if you want to do some Blender 3D stuff. Not many though. I mean, you're honestly better off subscribing to other people. But in terms of coming up stuff, like I said at the beginning, I have a stream tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. That is the Superb Owl special, where we're going to talk about owls at first, and then we're going to jump into how it is that creationists keep screwing up birds in very simple and easy to not do ways. Right? Like, we're talking like, what if whales are trout level of nonsense, but it's just birds instead of whales? Right? Like, just really, really dumb stuff. And so we're going to do that tomorrow. Tuesday is going to be Kent with Bent. Like I said, I think 104. I don't have a title for it, but our plan is right now to have a special surprise guest. So we're going to hopefully have a special surprise guest.
Kent?
Nice.
No, not Kent. I'm not going to have Kent on. Look, there's a word that rhymes with grape. And there was a bus that was intended to drive small children to have that done to them. And Kent drove that bus. Once you do that, you're not welcome on my channel.
What? Okay. Well, okay.
Yeah, he drove the grape bus, except there wasn't a G in front of the grape there.
Yeah.
I'm trying not.
But
I'm
he's
trying to
rationalized it.
out to-
I heard him on a video rationalize that.
Of course. Well, he was.
Is it really
He didn't.
rationalization?
Look, he's got an excuse for everything that he does. He's almost always dishonest about it. I can't say he's always dishonest. He might in some cases be deluded, but yeah, he's not coming on my channel.
We might be able to discuss some of that stuff on Friday.
There you go. Yeah. So yep, that's Tuesday. Wednesday I have, or not Wednesday, sorry, Thursday, I have a video coming out primarily about reindeer, but also a few other things. And basically I'm going to be using a different set of creationists who are saying that apparently because reindeer are cool, that therefore evolution is wrong. And we're going to point out both, one, that reindeer are cool for a number of reasons, and we're going to talk about why reindeer are cool. But then we're also going to talk about the fact that reindeer being cool is not really a problem for evolution in any particular way.
Yeah.
Because why would it be?
Yeah.
So that's what's coming up in the next week or so. On the 18th, I have my award show, the Cambrian Bunny Awards. If you want to vote in that, go watch the nomination show, and it will have links And that's basically all I have coming up for like the next week or so, other than the Dump Fact Friday, which I figure Chesh will talk about again. So there you go. That's me.
Landon, shill your shit.
Well, I'm a patron of Dapper. I'm a patron of Chesh. I recommend you consider that. By the way, please click the like button on this thing because it helps the channel. One of the reasons why you want to watch what Dapper does is not only to sort of get the dumpster fire for less creationists, but you'll actually learn about the topic. Right? I'm not an evolutionary biologist. I'm not involved in launching this sort of things. But you'll learn about the subject, not just how silly these people are, and you learn a bit of Klingon along the way too. So that's an added bonus. And on Chesh's channel, you have DFF. I mean, the intro alone is worth the price of watching.
True.
And as well as other things. And coming up on March 3rd at 1 p.m. Pacific time, we're gonna have a volcano show to see what Madame Paley is doing and whether or not she's still dancing. So far, she's doing so. It went from 3,000 tons of sulfur oxide per day to 2,800 tons per day, which is effectively in the noise. So she seems to be dancing pretty well. And according to Maanyaa, she dances a pretty good jazz jig. So we'll see what happens on March 3rd as to what happens. So I would encourage you to consider for both. I did successfully present my class on general and special relativity to some high school students in Canada, and I'm employing an artist to use predictably AI-driven tools so that the artist and the tool can produce some illustrations, and it'll be fun to see what happens.
Cool. I do want to say real quick, if you're coming to my channel to learn Klingon, I do not recommend that be your primary source for learning that language. Go check with people who actually do that, like as like a big part of what they do. If you want recommendations on where to go, then I will recommend. But yeah, my channel is that is like a tertiary or quaternary aspect of the channel. I just wanted to put that.
That's one of those things there. The citation needed. He'll tell you about that thing is, and when someone
it's true, the citation needed does have Klingon.
Does a super chat?
Can we get the citation needed?
No.
Because that's the citation needed that we both use. Oh, come on.
I don't have it plugged in yet. I got a new setup. I haven't put it there yet.
Oh yeah, you don't but number. What I say is sometimes people do super chats with Klingon, and there's discussion about the Klingon because every time Klingon is used, Klingon experts and people who like Dino know a lot about Klingon, but may not be at the level of experts because he claims he's not an expert. We'll discuss the things. So you learn things like that, as well as you'll learn about biology and about evolution, as well as some of the dumpster fires that come from things.
There's some fiery dumpsters.
And the other final thing you'll learn is that AIG is a bag of interesting phrases. You'll learn all the ways that AIG is a bag of. That's another benefit of
a bag of Richards, shall we say?
Yes.
All right, Maanyaa, what have you been up to?
Me? I've been visiting the black holes in our universe, and some very interesting things came out of them. But I'm back from India. I'm back from my brother's wedding. He's finally married and happily married. And then we've got lots of pictures and videos. I'm just waiting for the photographer to come back with the videos so I can plug them in the Discord for everyone to enjoy. Yeah, you can watch me in there whistling to till the sun comes down. And since I'm back now, I think so from next week, because next week it's Dapper with you on the Dump Fact Friday.
You're gonna be there.
And okay, I'm back next week on Dump Fact Friday, everybody, and also at the watching Madame Pele, and of course the Unnamed Tavern. So I'm back in full swing. So you look out for me on this channel, and then on Twitter, having Twitter meltdowns and
never leave me again.
I heard you. No, I will never leave you again. But it was fun when I went back home. A good change, but I felt very strange when I was the time just passed so quickly. So sometimes I kind of believe that I'm yeah, I'm kind of always going through a wormhole of time travel or something like that when these things happen. It was tiring but fun. So yeah, you can find me here on Chester's channel, or you can find me on Twitter if you are up to some shenanigans, and all the on the Discord, Chesh's Discord server. We have a lot of fun, and we are going to have conversations like the one Chesh just proposed about the AI art in the server. Join us there, and then yeah, I'll be having fun. Yeah.
Like, share, and sub if you learned something. Thanks very much for coming, everybody. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.